What is going on, guys? DragonTamerBlayde here, back from our Elder Scrolls Legends, and today we're going to be talking about the monthly card for January that was revealed this morning. I'm going to show it up on the screen, then we'll have a little, little image of it up in the right while we talk about some cards that it can be used with. But first, let's take a look at the card. It is Renegade Magister, 5-cost, 5/5 intelligence card. It is a dark elf, and it's got really nice art, by the way. I think this is going to be a beautiful premium. Fire effects in this game in particular usually look super great in premium form. But the ability is, after friendly action damages an enemy creature, Renegade Magister deals that much damage to that creature. Simple examples they give: if you cast a Firebolt, Firebolt will deal 2 damage, and then this creature will deal 2 damage to that card. So yeah, let's get into some use cases for this card, because I think it has a lot of potential. But whether it realizes that potential or not will be its own separate thing. So first we're going to look at cards in blue that deal damage. So let's take a look at that first. Deal. All right. So Cruel Fire Bloom being the first one. If you sacrifice a creature that's not Magister, you'll deal 10 damage to a random creature, which is a little bit overkill, but we'll get into some of these applications in a bit. You got Cruel Fire Bloom. Firebolt will deal 4 damage to a creature. Ice Spike will not trigger. Burning Touch, nobody plays it, but it could be used. Fire Breath, keep this one in mind. This is another card that I wanted to talk about, as well as Dragon Fury. Fire Breath can basically remove anything in the game. Dragon's Fury would be up there as well. Even with one dragon, you're dealing 12 damage. You're killing everything. Reverb, 6 damage to everything with the same name is absolutely insane. We don't really run into it too often where you need to deal more than 3 damage to multiple creatures. But it could come in handy. Trying to hold in a sneeze here. Firestorm could be, not too bad. I don't know. I still don't think it's good enough to play with, even with the Prophecy, but dealing 4 damage to everything in a lane makes it a lot better. Still don't think it makes it playable. Lightning Bolt, like a lot of the cards that this card synergizes with, I think the biggest things you're going to see is Ice Storm, first of all. That's going to be pretty insane. Being able to deal 6 damage to all enemy creatures kind of just gives you like an automatic board clear, almost no matter what. 6 health is a lot of damage to be dealing. That's the biggest one, I think, is Ice Storm. Spirit Knife I don't think really would matter too much. But here's what I'm really thinking, and as well as you have other colors, like you've got your Rapid Shots that'll deal 2 damage, which is not insignificant of a boost. Fireball, which can deal 2 damage to everything that isn't Firestorm, is not bad. Burn and Pillage basically turns into a better clear. Red Year would not trigger on Renegade Magister because I think it has to survive for the effect to trigger. But if you had like a lesser ward on this thing, Red Year can deal 20 damage to all enemy creatures. But I think it's in 2 successive hits as well. And again, not an irrelevant thought. We're going to get to that in a minute. What other damage dealing actions do we have? Ransack. I guess, yeah, the Archer's Gambit could be used in Dagoth. Negation. And then Crushing Blow. So that's about it. So this card is really going to be used for like a drop it on turn 5, play Ice Storm on 6 for like a really impactful board clear. Or on turn 11, you could basically kill everything your opponent has, almost guaranteed. So I think it's almost worth it alone on that front if you're the kind of deck that needs to clear your opponent's board. And then just like turning your Fire Bolts into mini Lightning Bolts allows you to save your Lightning Bolts for more impactful plays. I think this card is better than a lot of people are giving it credit for. Turning a Fire Bloom into 10 damage to a random creature. I mean, Fire Bloom usually kills most things it needs to. And obviously you can't target it, but it's still not horrendous. But just off of the added utility that Firebolt, Negation, and Ice Storm get, and even Lightning Bolt to an extent, but I don't think as often you'll need to deal 8 damage to an enemy creature, but still, it still counts. Just the utility that those 4 cards get, I think Sorcerer, or even if you're not running Negation, like other Mage decks and stuff like that, or Battle Mage, I'm going to get to Battle Mage in a minute, but But I think that this card is almost worth running just for being a 5/5 for 5, because that's really great stats for intelligence. But also, just like I said, doubling the effect of those cards is really, really good. Like, being able to save a lightning bolt and use a firebolt in exchange, ridiculously great. Being able to Ice Storm and deal 6 to all of your opponent's creatures, that is outrageously good. And being able to play those two cards together from hand on turn 11, which almost assuredly clears your opponent's board no matter what kind of deck they're running, is really, really good as well. 6 damage is great. But I'm most interested in this card for Shenanigans. The applications I've talked about thus far are the quote-unquote legit methods or uses for this card. Things like the Firebolt, Ice Storm, Lightning Bolt, Negation are how probably competitive decks will use this the most viably. But what I saw when I was looking at this card is something like Improvised Weapon, and then trying to do something like Fire Bloom to weaken something and then Breakthrough. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think it ever would really exist in that way. But you have a cheaper, slightly cheaper that is, cheaper Ancana Red Year combo. You need one more card, but you save 3 Magicka. You need 15 instead of 18. So take that what it is. It's a slightly more accessible combo, which would actually allow you, if you had, where is it? Mage's Guild Recruit. If you played, for example, 3 of these, or 2 with the... No, 2. 2 would do it for you. 2 of these would bring the Red Year down to a 6-cost action, which would allow you to play Renegade Magister and Red Year from hand, which would be a 2-card... Well, 3, you need the Improvised Weapon, and 4 cards because you need Lesser Ward, unless you used Wardcrafter on a previous turn. So it'd be a 4-card Ancana Red Year-like combo from hand. But even still then, like, Red Year's probably clearing all your opponent's creatures, so I don't think you're really ever going to get to live those meme-like dreams. Although Breakthrough could be decent occasionally. It's mostly going to be if, like, your opponent had a warded creature. You could break the ward with the action and then deal the damage with Renegade Magister, which I think is also a not unreasonable application of the card. If your opponent played something like... I don't know, if they played a 4-health creature and then they put a ward on it, normally you'd have to swing in and then Lightning Bolt, and you might not have that opportunity. Now you can Lightning Bolt the ward, and then Renegade Magister will clear that creature out. So while some of those like high-rolly dreams of Lesser Ward, Improvised Weapon, plus damage-dealing action, being able to kind of be a win button from there, I don't think it's that realistic to expect. I think, like I mentioned, the main use for this card is going to be powering up the cards in your deck that you were already running. So like I said, like the Firebolts, the Negations, the Ice Storms, the Lightning Bolts, the mainstays of blue removal are just better with this card in your deck, and that could be enough to warrant running this card. If you're an assassin deck that, or it's really, I think, favors slower decks. So if I'm like a control mage, which would be the most traditional application I think this card would see play in, but maybe even like a control sorcerer can now like bump up. Typically, if you were talking about like a control type of deck, for the most part, mage is going to win out over sorcerer, because mage has tons, like the access to the hard removal, being Javelin and Cast into Time, which are still really, really good cards. But now you have the option to run some of purple's beat sticks, which help you control the board better, creature-wise, and you can gain access to, while not quite hard removal, what essentially becomes the equivalent of hard removal, because if your Ice Storm is dealing 6 damage, like I said, that's killing almost everything in the game. So at that point, do you really need your Javelin anymore? Or if your Lightning Bolt can deal 8 damage, do you really need your Javelin anymore? Yeah, you can point the Lightning Bolt's face in the end, but a lot of slower decks are going to be using Lightning Bolts as removal. So I think this card opens up a lot of other blue-based control decks that aren't Mage, which Mage has traditionally been the best one. Makes Tribunal even better, and this could be a completely fine inclusion in Control Tribunal. Obviously, it can't be relied on as much since the 3-color decks can be slightly less consistent. But I could see now things like Control Battle Mage attempting to exist. It never really was a thing before, but red has a lot of actions that deal damage, and so does Intelligence, so now you combine those two together, and you can get a lot of mileage out of this card. I think that's where this card is going to shine the best, is helping you to get bonus mileage out of your actions, make them go a longer way, and conserve your higher quality actions. Like, if I was going to have to use, like I was talking about before, a Firebolt now becomes a Lightning Bolt. A Lightning Bolt becomes essentially an Ice Storm or better. So you get to kind of lower the quality of removal you're forced to use, which helps you save the higher quality things for higher important situations, which obviously makes your entire game plan stronger in the long run. Those are the main applications I was thinking for this card. Mostly just in like a controlling sense, I think this card can really shine. And I think the card's better than it looks. Even if we were in like a mid-on-mid strategy and my Firebolts are clearing your 4 health creatures and I have a 5/5 body on the board, I still can swing things. It makes Firebolt less of a dead draw in the mid to late game if I'm a mid-range deck. Yeah, I think this is a solid card. I think it's sneaky good. The applications aren't as wide as I thought when I first looked at it. I was trying to think of a bunch of crazy, cheeky OTK decks, but it requires all of your opponent's cards to have a bunch of ward on them for Red Year to really come into effect. So it's not as memey as I thought it could be, but it's actually better viable competitive-wise than I was thinking. But yeah, that's all I got. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section of the card. What decks you guys are planning on running this card in, if there's any synergies that I may have missed, or that you think I'm underselling or overselling. Let's get that chat going down below in the comments section. But yeah, that's going to be it for now, guys. As always, thank you all very much for watching. I'm DragonTamerBlayde, and I'll see you guys next time.